lovely to see David from the Index Biosystems team. Thank you so much for taking the time to give us an update on your CFIN funded project now that you're about a year into it. For anybody who might not know us that's viewing this, I'm Linda Fox, the CFIN Regional Innovation Director for Ontario. And if you don't mind, David, maybe I'll just ask you to introduce yourself and then we'll launch into it.
Yeah, sure. Just a quick introduction. My name is David Singer. I am one of the co-founders and VP of Business Development at Index Biosystems.
Wonderful. Thank you. Okay, on to the project, because this is the really cool stuff. Talk to me a little bit about the project itself. Give us the 30,000-foot view, and then maybe from there you can go right into some of the milestones and successes that you've achieved so far.
Sure. So at a high level, I guess I'll just start off by saying that at Index, the easiest way to think about what we do is we create a barcode out of a baker's yeast. So these uniquely identifiable baker's yeast can be applied to parts, at a rate of about parts per million, to really any fungible good, food products, to provide identity preservation and traceability. And the use cases where we're finding significant traction and projects that we worked on with CFIN were related to basically tracking these fungible goods that through complex supply chains, through aggregation and processing, to be able to provide identity preservation. So where this is relevant in industries such as grains, is there's all kinds of efforts and practices being implemented on the farm for sustainability, as an example. And companies are making claims related to their sustainable supply, but they are really reliant primarily on mass balance systems to provide sort of information about how much of their supply is coming from these vetted sources, or they're having to segregate supply chains. And through segregation of these supply chains, they're incurring considerable costs, and it's resulting in unintended consequences such as it's inconsistent quality or even challenges with supply. So what we, primarily what was of interest for this project that we did with CFIN is, can we provide farm level identification of grains that as they get aggregated and put into these mass balance systems, can we verify the identity and the origins of these grains and connect them to the sustainability data so that the efforts made on farm can travel almost like a passport with this grain through the supply chain and provide the end customers with verifiable, measurable data related to the sustainability of their supply.
Okay, so to make sure that we all understand that, something that starts at the farm, a grain with this yeast identity on it, you can track all the way through to the project is finding it out. If you track that all the way through to the loaf of bread that might be at my local grocery store.
Yeah, that's right. So like we can literally farm by farm apply a unique identifying if we take an example of wheat, in this case we did oats, but like with wheat, as an example, you could apply it to the grains that are coming off that farm. You connect the application of our unique identifier to the supply chain data, so carbon footprint data or Regen Ag certification, to the application of that biotag. That travels on product into these, aggregated, bins, can be detected and quantified in a rail car shipment. So if I get a 40-ton rail car or 22-ton rail car of grains, we are able to take a sample of that and say 20% came from farm A, 10% from farm B, 50% from farm C. The rest of it we don't know. Mm-hmm. So you can make verifiable claims about the sustainability, but we can go further than that, and that we can actually process, for in the example of wheat, we can through a milling process, we can detect it in each of the flour factions and quantify it in the flour. Wow. And then we've gone a step further and actually we're able to trace it into a final baked good if you wanted to. So, a future by which you can actually have a verifiable carbon footprint for a slice of bread is really enabled by this solution.
Oh, just so you know, I'm happy to have my example be an oatmeal cookie. Yeah.
Okay, and an oatmeal cookie.
Thank you. That really clarifies it. So what are a couple of the milestones that you've achieved through this first year-ish on the CFIN project? And then maybe from there, David, you can take us into some of the stuff that you have planned coming up.
Sure. So, I mean, the CFIN project was primarily about it was absolutely a critical project for it because we needed to demonstrate and test out how we could do application to grains in a scalable way. Because, you know, we're talking about commodities that's in the tons, and we needed to find sort of frictionless ways to apply our products. So this was a project we did with a partner in oats. And so we used this project enabled us to test out a couple of methodologies and a couple of application points and a couple of dosage rates to really find sort of what's the optimal way and the frictionless way to do a biotag application to these grains, on farm, at the dump pit. And working with our partners on this project, we were able to develop very economic sort of application equipment. And critical to this project too was obviously testing out our product in a commercial setting, but also the sampling collection techniques and things that we needed to do and test on ground to prove out its utility to deliver on, validating sustainability through these supply chains or identity preservation.
And you were able to do that as part of the project.
Yeah, it was a fantastically successful project, and we learned a lot from it, and it has allowed us to iterate our product to even, to really make this scalable and economical for, widespread application. And it's given us a leaping, sort of I don't know what the term is, like it's giving us a leaping off point, a platform where, we've continued to use what we've learned from this project to continue to scale and demonstrate the applications through, different grain processing. This idea and I can tell you that, what sort of our next steps are is we've really, it's a platform type solution. So there's lots of applications for this. And even within grains, this is, where we began with sustainability, and we're getting a lot of interest in using our product to help standardize these approaches.
Okay.
So there's lots of conversations around that. But what's unique about our product is it really does provide, from a food safety perspective, an ability to it enhanced traceability and batch level traceability through these continuous systems really enables you to potentially reduce a scope or, a scope of a recall, where otherwise you wouldn't have data to make a claim of oftentimes in these milling operations and things like that, if there's a recall, being able to say how much, the continuous flow, we don't know how much flour is coming from one batch to the other without absolute clean out, what's the efficiency of our clean outs and things like that. Mm-hmm. Biotags can be used as a tool for that to potentially limit scope, time required for recall. And we're in a number of different use cases, we're coupling our product with insurance offerings.
Oh, interesting. I think
like in recall and contamination insurance offerings. So from the story, with what we're doing with CFIN, there's the food, being able to track these products as they're, coming from the field through the mill to know what that's ending into, that traceability really can have an impact on a scope of a recall. But beyond that, we're looking at opportunities to potentially, do something that no one else has done before, which is, intangible qualities of these grains, such as sustainability practices, aren't really traceable other than through digital process. And
you've changed that.
Can you warranty sustainability by saying, I can guarantee you, through these mass balance systems, what percentage of that shipment actually came from your regen certified sources?
Okay, so hence the insurability starts to make some sense because you could not say that before.
Right.
So
yeah.
That's the best job ever. I learn something new every day. This is great.
And
That's very exciting. And you did not start out down that path.
no, we started with, and we've learned that this is kind of a common sort of path, is like, you end up with a traceability, like in our case, this is a traceability product and platform. The risk mitigation value of our product was always in our head. Like the inspiration for our product was, how do you reduce the scope of an E. coli outbreak with like produce in a romaine where, the labeling may be removed and, you might be dealing with waste and things like that. And when you look at it from a risk mitigation factor and you look at how those things are dealt with in industry, we see this as a really elegant sort of, evolution for our service offering, because, novel traceability solutions, in and of themselves for just traceability, it's a longer sales cycle, we'll say. Mm-hmm. Whereas companies are already buying recall and contamination insurance products. Right. This affects that. It has an impact to that. So coupling them is like just a natural fit for us.
I love how you put that. It was kind of always in the back of your head, but you don't necessarily foresee the application the way it comes out. You've kind of had all of these iterations along the way. That's really
and we're a lot of like as a startup, you have to spend the time and really prove out the technology and really sort of understand the where and how the product can be applied. So
wonderful.
So it was really about like a lot of this, and even with the CFIN project, is like de-risking and just proving the commercial viability of the solution, and this went a long way to helping us achieve that.
And the scalability, because something you do in the lab is not always easy to scale to the next stage. That's
absolutely.
Story. So maybe that leads us naturally into my next question, if I might be so bold as to. Can you tell us where you think your project would be if you didn't have the support of CFIN at that particular stage? Would it have changed things for you?
Yeah. Bottom line, like this was with this support, we were able to achieve collecting the data and really proving out how we could scale this. Mm-hmm. And without that, like I don't know where, like we needed that. So we are, would we have achieve that another way? Like CFIN has been an absolutely natural fit in terms of objectives and the support that they could provide. In no sort of uncertain terms, this was foundational for us. This was a leaping off point for us through this support.
Love to hear that. And I think you've made some good connections through our network, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah,
well, which
we have. It's
we
could
really
probably
have another whole.
I know this is, and really, like credit to CFIN, the events they hold, and the online presence you guys have for your members through Yodel, etc. We met with another company through CFINs, which I'll mention them by name and Yodel because they're amazing and what they do is amazing. One of the interesting applications of our project, of our product. And again, like I don't want to get too into the weeds here, but what, another application is we can use our product to validate applications of antimicrobials, where, a lot of antimicrobial or kill steps are processing agents that are designed to break down shortly after application. Mm-hmm. When again, like this, it marries beautifully with the insurance story. So, a company like an Odal that has an antimicrobial solution, which they're amazing, they want to be able to validate from a QA perspective that their product has been applied as their companies and their customers have said they are applying it and at the dosage rates prescribed. But because their product you can't detect it after application. It breaks down as most of these chemicals do. That's what they're designed to do. Our product, co-applied, can provide you with evidence of application and dosage post-application. So, from an insurance compliance piece, it fits nicely.
Nice. Well, thank you for that. And at the risk of taking too much of your time, because I know that people who are starting up businesses and have so many things to do, I appreciate the time you've taken, but just want to give you a chance to see if there's anything else that you want to add about your project or partnerships before I let you go.
Yeah, I'm sort of stumped on it. I mean, like we're obviously, as I mentioned to you, this, The insurance piece is coming together quite nice, and we're working with a number of groups on this. The warrantying around sustainable supply, like we have now done projects, including, beyond grains, we're working now in seafood. So to be able to provide guarantees about the sustainable sourcing of seafood products, and to be able to provide warranties for those kinds of sources of origins is, I guess I'm sort of, planting an additional seed for what's coming up this year.
Right. Oh, I love that, because you did start particularly with grains and the like. So this is a whole other area that, in the what's next category. That's terrific.
It's what's next, but it's the same model
But it's
for
the
us.
same.
We're
Yeah.
guaranteeing sustainability. It's the same product. It just, you're just finding, with any given supply chain, what's the optimal frictionless way to apply it. And we're finding broad opportunities, because it's dry yeast that can be mixed in with water and sprayed on. And it's very flexible.
So many opportunities and possibilities. Thank you, David, very much for your time. And it's always a pleasure working with you and the Index Biosystems team. I appreciate you taking the time today.
No, thank you so much. And yeah, looking forward to further engagement with CFIN. It's been a pleasure. Thank you.